high press, aggressive football. Be aggressive, press them high, and rather than going, do you know what? And because even I think a couple of goal kicks, he goes, right, okay, just get out, and I'm going to go long. But rather than just doing that, constantly until they drop off and realise, okay, there's no point in pressing high because they're going long, and then giving us the space, we go, right, okay, we'll take the ball under pressure, we'll still play it back, and we'll still try and play short, or try and, rather than, when the ball goes back to him, rather than just fucking clearing his lines, aiming towards Kane, where Kane is, he's still trying to clip passes out to the wing backs.
Well, I mean, that's probably something he's been told to do, I'm sure, like you're suggesting. But if he's not the right goalkeeper for that system, then we have to get a different one, because he's never been good at his kicking. But his decision making at the moment is worrying. It's like he's rushing out all the time, and
but in the middle, we're in the middle of the season. Yeah, but we're in mid-season though, Lee. So surely this comes back to where we talk about Conte being obstinate, and surely you change the system, or give him the autonomy to make a different decision during the game. If we're under pressure and we're not able to relieve pressure, then give him the autonomy to go long in some instances, rather than we all just come dropping in short and trying to receive short and then try and risk possession, because we're just clearly not playing with enough confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's a worry, and with Dyer also feeling like, I suppose, with Romero out, Dyer looks half the player, and he's having to take a lot of it on his shoulders. And I don't think sometimes he performs as well under those conditions. He also is making a number of mistakes. So the whole back four just looks lopsided, not very confident at the moment. And again, like I was saying before, with the wing backs, I mean, Emerson, I thought he had an okay game, actually. That game, he's probably one of the better players, but clearly he's not what we need. He's just so far off it. That system does not work well with him.
Well,
and
I don't know what to say, because as you say, everyone in the stands go, fucking hell, Emerson, but Conte's got a few options there. He has got a few options. He could play Doherty. He's dropped Doherty. He could give Spence a run if he really thinks that Royal's not good enough.
Surely
he could put Perisic in there, but he doesn't. He persists in playing Royal, so he clearly thinks, in terms of the system that he wants to play. We don't know what happens in training, but in terms of the system he wants to play, he clearly thinks that Royal is the right fit. And as you say, on Sunday, despite the result, Royal actually had a fairly decent game. His issue and has always been probably his end product. He doesn't, at that moment when you need to make a decision, he doesn't make a decision, or doesn't make the right decision.
And the subs were poor as well, Steve. I mean, like when Perisic came on, terrible. When Skip came off, Skip was one of the better players as well, and I think it changed the game after when Mora came on. Again, just running into blind alleys and falling over all the time.
Yeah, but we know that's how Mora plays, but he does give us energy. So it's I don't know. It's difficult. One of the things and I know, Rich, it's difficult for you to contribute to some of this. So I'm sure you'll have a point to contribute at some point. But maybe we'll come to Simon, because he was there and hasn't had a chance to chat. But one of my questions, I think, was around Bissouma, because I think in the first half, I don't think he played that well. In the second half, I thought he played a little bit better, and I felt that in the second half, he kind of had a little bit more license to progress with the ball. Whereas in the first half, I felt he was, on a tight leash and had to kind of play, under Conte's direction, which restricts him.
Is that a question to me?
That is to you, Simon. Yeah.
Very good. I agree. Yes, I agree. I think as the game progressed, he got more into it and more fluid. It did feel, but I think as I said earlier, it's kind of after the first 20-25 minutes, we saw for whatever reason the whole thing just fell flat, and I don't think he was in it. I don't think many were in it, and I think those two goals were complete sucker punches to their confidence and completely knocked them off whatever perch that they had. Definitely, as we got into the second half, he seemed to show more interest and was able to move around more in the middle and do smarter things. So that felt that he was getting more into it. But I was trying to decide whether actually that was growing in confidence, we were building something, or were we turning into panic? And I couldn't quite, it's that whole thing of, you get down to the last 15, 20 minutes and then everyone starts to panic because it's 2-1. We could get that second goal. And all of a sudden, it's game on and it's a fight to the death like we've seen before, where, we can sometimes pull it off. So I think it was good. It was good to see him get more into it, but I don't feel that systematically we were still on point. We're still short of real creativity in the middle. We're still short of having an extra energy. Sure, Lucas came on, but I think we're sort of getting, I don't know, he can sometimes do a magic thing and sometimes doesn't. I think maybe that's the same with Richarlison as well, but I think we were just sort of we were basically running out of ideas.
I think also
sorry. So I was just gonna bring Rich in at this point, because I think there's a point here that Rich can answer whether he's seen the game or not. But in terms of the picture that Simon has painted, we playing with more urgency, or we were on the front foot, I think, a lot of the second half, and we as the game broke down, it came back to us and we kept pressing. And I felt, even though we didn't get the second goal, I felt we looked a better team for playing on the front foot rather than playing on playing this controlled game. So, Rich, I know obviously you didn't see the game, but in general terms, when you watch a Spurs game, and what's your take on how we approach games with this this kind of wanting to control possession, and hoping that will be sufficient?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of points, really. The first is that I didn't see the game, but I did listen to it on the radio because I was actually travelling back. I've been in Leeds for the weekend and I was travelling back down the motorway while it was on. So I listened to the match on Five Live, and what you're saying about us being on the front foot in the second half was the way that the commentators were talking about the game. It sounded very much like, they kept saying, that we've had a deluge of rain and now we're going to have a deluge of goals, and Tottenham are going for it. And it was really, they kind of talked it up, and it was almost comic, because obviously it didn't happen. They got to about 85 minutes and suddenly they were, oh well, maybe Spurs aren't going to get the goal. They've only got 5+ stoppages or what have you yet. And then you sort of read the reports and watch the reaction and sort of pick up on the media threads afterwards, and it almost seems like they were commentating on a completely different game. So I mean, it's interesting listening to you say about that, about that we were more proactive, because there was an awful lot of negativity about the way we played in that second half that I picked up on in the reviews. I mean, that said, this to answer or address your question directly, really, that wanting to control the game and wanting teams to come onto us and then to break at them and beat them in transitions much more rapidly appears to be a defunct tactic now, doesn't it? In that it looks from, and obviously, like I say, I only sort of had the audio commentary for this game, and I only saw bits of the United debacle the week before, but it seems very much now that everybody's worked that out. And I wonder whether what we're actually seeing is is Conte Tottenham 2.0 in development, and actually that they're having to relearn an entirely different way of doing it, because actually this is really an ineffective way of playing now. I don't really have any more insight to offer on that, but it seems like there has been some sort of tactical switch where they are asking them to try and create more impetus, but without actually having that same sort of systems approach that they had with breaking in transition that worked really well at the end of last season, So
yeah, Leo, I'm going to let you come in. I want to if you can, I don't know what the point was you were going to make, but I'd like you, if possible, to link what Rich has said back to the point where you spoke about the weak mentality, because I think on Sunday night, I also tweeted that I thought that it was weak. It was a weak performance, weak mentality, weak everything. But, I think that what Rich is saying there, for me, it does show weak mentality, because we only kind of attack when we're a goal behind, or, when we... So, we could control the game, but with more pace, and we don't.
Well, I think, that's spot on again. I think I remember messaging a friend of mine on WhatsApp during the game and saying, look, if we're a top sides claw these games back. That Newcastle weren't anything brilliant. No. And although defensively they got a good record, of course we're hamstrung by the fact that our most creative players are out at the moment. They're injured. But notwithstanding
when you say out, do you mean at other clubs like?
Yeah. But Decky, obviously, as we said in the last pod, gives us a lot more balance and a lot more creativity. He's got that dribbling skill that we really miss. Richarlison coming off the bench can bring us something which is like throwing a hand grenade into it, and you just don't know what he's going to do. Not having Højbjerg and Romero there again. Romero is one of his points is. Is moving forward, bombing forward, and
sorry. So I don't want to be like rude. I don't really want to be rude and cut you off.
But you're gonna.
Did you Lee just include Højbjerg as part of one of the creative players in the team and someone that we're missing? Did you Lee?
Yeah. Listen, not necessarily creative, but it gives us the balance I'm talking about. And that's one of the things that I think we missed. We definitely missed.
Yeah, but no, but just you're crediting Højbjerg.
Yeah. I did that. I did that last pod, Steve. Do you not remember?
But
I just said I rode back on my comments on Højbjerg.
I don't know. It's just like it's a whole new you. You come out of hospital, whole new man. What's going on?
I know. They've given me a brain transplant while I was in there. But I definitely also feel, if that was Chelsea, or if that was City, or if that was Liverpool, they're getting at least a draw out of that. They probably might have even won it because we were having a go at them, but it was lots of balls were just hitting the man coming out, hitting the first man. Yeah. It just wasn't coming to anything. You can throw the kitchen sink at it, but if you're doing nothing in that final third, really, and it's just getting knocked away every time.
But we don't look a threat, really, do we, Lee? I mean, when
we don't,
and it feels like the tables have kind of turned, because where we've been the team that allows teams to come onto us, soak up pressure, and then look threatening on the counter. Now, we're losing games, or we're losing in games, I should say. Sorry, trying to pressure the other team, lots of possession, and then look like we're going to get done on the break. Mm-hmm. And we look like they're quite easy to break down on the break as well. So it's really worrying. And I know that a lot of people are going out like there's certainly immediately after the game, a lot of people going, fucking Sanchez, fucking Davies, fucking Dyer, and then but they and talk about Romero's the saviour, and Romero's been really good, but he wasn't against Man United. And I don't know if that's just because he was injured, because he's now he's out injured. But we kind of allow players to have too much credit in the bank. I think sometimes, because he played fairly well for most of the season. You know, he's had 2 or 3 ropey games, but we kind of just ignore it, you know, because it's like West Romero.
I think the other thing we have to get used to is that we're now seen as a scalp.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at the Man U game, Casemiro was on his knees at the end of that